vlog. I hope you're all really well and have had a really good week. This week I am going to do an Ask Me Anything. So I get asked a lot of questions and I thought I would try and condense it into a video. I put a call out onto my Instagram a couple of weeks ago to see if anyone had anything they wanted to ask me, and I got quite a lot of questions, so I thought I would share the answers on here. Everything from, you know, business questions, sewing questions, to more personal questions, and I thought it might be a nice opportunity to share a bit more about me and those answers on here. But before I start, it'd be amazing if you could subscribe. Thank you so much to all of you who have subscribed. I've just realised that we have now got 7,000 subscribers on the channel, which is amazing. Thank you. And if you're not already, just hit the button wherever it is down there, and yeah, join in the channel, leave me a comment. I do try and answer as many of them as I can, and I will try and do these Ask Me Anything fairly regularly, so if there isn't a question that I can answer in the comments, I'll try and cover it in one of these. So first question might be, where are you? And actually I'm in my new office, and one of the questions that I've had is, why do you have a new office when you have a beautiful shop? So I'm just gonna lift the camera up a little bit so you can see. So this is not actually in my house. This is a new office space that I have set up, and I've set it up at my granddad's house, which is about 15 minutes away from where I live. Couple of reasons. So firstly, because I want to spend more time with my granddad. He's 85 and amazing, and yeah, I get to spend my tea breaks chatting to him. Secondly, because working from home is very difficult, because I find it hard running a small business to switch off and stop working at the end of the day and the days that I'm off. So by kind of separating it and having a journey to and from work, I'm trying to separate it out a little bit. And then thirdly is for a reason that has kind of become apparent over the last 6 months or so, and it's been a really strange but I suppose rewarding realisation, is that the shop and the studio, although they are my baby and I'm incredibly passionate about them and I love being there, it's not my space anymore. When I first set it up, I set it up completely by myself. I built the whole thing pretty much by myself, and when I was, you know, starting the business, it was me there by myself for pretty much the first 6 months. And as the business has grown, we've got more and more classes. I've got obviously the lovely Sandra and Alice who help me out in the shop. We have about 7 classes a week. Up until the end of last year, I was teaching 4 or 5 of those, but now I'm working with some other teachers to try and get more of a balance. And the space is really busy, the shop is really busy, the studio is used, as I say, sort of 7 times a week. So when I'm trying to do things to work on the business rather than in it and grow the business, it's really tricky when the shop and studio are full of people. And that is amazing, because that is exactly how I want it to be. I'm building this business so that other people can enjoy it, and everyone who has a love of sewing and craft can share in it, and that's exactly what I wanted. But it's meant that I found myself without anywhere to be, if that makes sense. So I can be in the shop and I can be chatting to customers and I can be teaching, and that's all fantastic. But when I need to sit and concentrate and do, you know, finances and the boring stuff, but also the kind of creative stuff about the plans and how we grow the business, I didn't really have anywhere to go. So I've created this creative space, and I love it. I love it. It's my grandparents is kind of like my family home in a way. It's the one sort of place where we hadn't moved house or anything like that. So yeah, I just love being here, and I've managed to make the office really nice and fill it full of, you know, lots of inspiring pictures and things that are really special to me, and I'll give you a tour at some point. But yeah, I don't want to go into too much because that'll be the whole video, but that is why I have a new office. So Lols Sews and Sews says, what's your favourite type of fabric to sew with? So my favourite type of fabric to sew with would be cotton lawn, because it's really crisp, it does exactly what you tell it to do, it presses beautifully, you can do lovely French seams. Realistically, I don't actually wear that much cotton or cotton lawn, so although it's my favourite type of fabric to sew with, it's not necessarily my favourite type of fabric to wear, and the answer to that would be probably jersey. And actually I love sewing with jersey, I love sewing with stretch fabrics. Those of you that have been following the vlog for a while will know I am often making things in jersey. It's super quick, like this cocoa top. So yeah, it's a toss up between the two. Angela Sews asks, how do you sew labels in, by hand or machine, and partway through construction or at the end? So we stock the fantastic Kylie and the Machine labels. In fact, I've got some here because I love them so much that I put them into my own makes. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see that, but that's the Made with Love and Swear Words one, and that is the Yes, I Made It one. If I hold my face, the camera will focus. So slightly different. So if I'm using a square one like that, I will normally pop it into the facing, in between the facing and the back bodice piece, so that I do that part way through the construction. If I'm using a long flat label like that, I'll normally attach it onto the facing before I attach the facing to the bodice piece, but I always do it by machine, so it just depends on what shape of label. Sarah Body says, what's the best and worst thing about running your own business? Wow, that's a big question. I talk about it quite a lot, the highs and the lows, on Instagram, especially. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know I try and paint a really realistic picture. So there are so many highs. It's feedback from customers, so seeing people that have come to classes and really enjoyed it, and seeing people that have come in and never sewn before and start on our like introduction to sewing courses right at the beginning, and then come back and do introduction to dressmaking, and then come back and do you know, more advanced classes, and then they'll come in and show us the things that they've made. And there's something really, really special about knowing that because of the business that I've created, people are finding something that they love. In fact, that would be my number one. Like these flowers behind me, one of my lovely students bought me those to say thank you at the end of the last course that she was on. And just things like that, and when people send me pictures of their kids who've really enjoyed the children's classes that we teach, that's the best thing. The worst thing is that it literally never stops. There's no off button, even when there is an off button. So say when I went on holiday in September and I went to Portugal and I didn't work, in the sense that I didn't, you know, I literally checked my emails once a day and I didn't reply to them unless it was an emergency, and there wasn't really an emergency because Alice and Sandra looked after everything, but my brain never switches off. So every night when I get into bed, I'm constantly thinking about ideas, constantly thinking about things. There is a huge weight of responsibility, so it's great having a team to work with and help support me, but I also am responsible for paying them at the end of the month. I'm responsible for making sure the teachers get paid. There's a lot of responsibility around it. If things don't get done, if our customers, for some reason, if their parcel doesn't arrive, you know, my team look after it and help, but the buck stops with me. So there's a huge weight of responsibility. I did a vlog a while back about my first year in business, and that talks a lot about the highs and the lows. Could you consider, sorry, El Maletto says, could you consider making a list of fabrics that would work for popular patterns? Yes, although if you go onto our website, there is a recommended pattern feature for all the fabrics that we stock. So every new fabric is always added with recommended patterns, but we are going back if we've got any of our regular fabrics that haven't yet had that updated. So if you go onto the website, look at a fabric, if you scroll down, you'll see recommended patterns, and they are actually patterns that we have specifically picked because we know they'll work well with those fabrics. So hopefully that will help you. The same lady also says, as a beginner, something that puts me off is buying fabric online that's not suitable and demoralises me. So I totally get that, and that's why I worked with my web designer to put that in place. So we've got the fabric suggestions for patterns, and we are also putting it in place in the other way, so that when you buy a pattern, we'll be able to suggest fabrics for you. We also have a swatch service, so you can order a swatch of fabrics, just a small swatch. You can order up to 6 of them, and then you can feel the fabric and see an idea of the colours and things, and see if it'll work with you, with your project, sorry. So yeah, hopefully that will help. Felton Stitch says, are you able to tell us what garment your first satisfaction pattern will be? No. So if, I'm not sure if I mentioned it on here or on Instagram, but one of my plans this year, one of the things I'm working on a lot at the moment, is satisfaction patterns. They are coming this year, but no, I'm afraid I can't tell you anything else at this point. What I will say is they are things that I really feel I'm missing. So there are loads of indie patterns, and lots of people talk in the same way that they ask whether their market for fabric shops is, you know, oversaturated, and my answer is no. People say, oh, is the indie pattern market oversaturated? No, look at how many clothes shops there are. You don't walk around and say, gosh, there's just so many clothes shops and fashion designers. Everyone has a different take on things, so that doesn't answer your question, I know, but they are coming. Oh, I had quite a lot of questions about, could I do vlogs on techniques, so things like concealed zips and blind hem feet and things like that. So I'm going to do a learn to sew series that will be just some short videos with some quick and simple tutorials. So actually, if there's anything that you guys want me to cover in those, then please let me know in the comments down below. Sue13 sews, what does Mr. Satisfaction do and what is his name? Always like to get to know people. So Mr. Satisfaction would love to be called Mr. Satisfaction. No. His name is Paul. My husband is Paul, and in fact I got another question about this, about how did we meet. So me and my husband met at work 5.5 years ago. I wouldn't say it was love at first sight, but it was pretty close, and within 3 months of us getting together he proposed, and then we moved in together and we got married just over a year after meeting, and the end of this year will be our 5th wedding anniversary, so we've just celebrated our 4th wedding anniversary. And he works as a fundraising manager for a housing charity, and I love him. In fact, he is in that picture there. Any recommendations for dressmaking, fitting books or other resources? Yes, so the Fit for Real People book is amazing. They have updated it as well with better pictures, so there are a couple of different versions out there, but they both work really well. They've got great diagrams so you can kind of diagnose fit problems, and there is another book which is really good, and I'm really sorry I can't remember the name of it, but I will look it up and pop it in the comment, in the text down below. But yeah, there's a couple. And she also says, or resources. So the other one I would recommend is definitely the Curvy Sewing Collective, because even if you're not curvy, they've got loads of resources on how to adapt and fit patterns. Full bust adjustments, small bust adjustments, all of that sort of stuff. Jessica Milcars says, what is your favourite dress form? So I only have one dress form, which is actually the dummy you can see behind me, and it's an adjuster form, so it's in 8 pieces and you can adjust all of the sizing to fit your bust, waist, hips, etc. I have to admit I don't really use it that often. I prefer to fit kind of on me as I go. Why do some sell, so Poppy Bead Creative says, why do some sell fabrics in ½ meters? So I'm assuming she means why do some fabric shops sell in ½ meters. So it's to do with stock keeping units. So we have to, on our stock system, we obviously have to keep track of all of our stock, and we have a stock system that talks from the shop to the website and vice versa, and we need to work in units. So we could work in meters, but then you would have to buy in round meters, and obviously a lot of the time people want to buy 2.5 meters or you know, ½ meter even. So that's why, and we price it in ½ meters so that it's really clear, because if we price per meter and then people have to work out that that's not actually the price of the unit that they're buying, it's tricky. So that's why we do it. I think that's why most places do it, and we do say very clearly on every fabric that this is the price per metre, and that it'll be sent in a continuous length. So if you want 3 meters, for example, you would put 6 into the box, and that would calculate it for you. I hope that's clear. Jay Ramoth says, your videos always look great. What type of camera do you use and how do you edit? Thank you. So I use a Panasonic Lumix, which I really love because it's got a flip up screen, so I can see when I'm recording, which is really helpful. And I also love the picture quality. I don't love it because it hasn't got a microphone port, so it's only got the built-in microphone, and I don't feel like the sound quality is as good as it could be. So I am looking to trade up, so if anyone's got any camera recommendations, let me know. Likewise, with the video editing software that I use, I've actually just switched over and I'm just starting to use Adobe Premiere, because the one that I was using before I was having so many problems with. It was a paid for software, but I wouldn't recommend it. And again, if you've been following on here for a while, you've been following on Instagram, you'll know that I've been getting very frustrated with it. So I'm hoping that Adobe will be a little bit better. But I'm really pleased that you like the camera quality. Maker's Got to Make says, you seem to be totally bossing it. What do you do in moments of self-doubt and how do you stay resilient? Another big thank you, that's really kind. I don't feel like I'm bossing it a lot of the time. My big motto for life has always been fake it till you make it. So if I'm panicking on the inside, you probably won't see it on the outside. I'm definitely a person who tries to keep calm even if I don't feel like it. And in terms of self-doubt, I just tell myself that it will be alright. I think we all go through periods of self-doubt, and I try really hard to talk to myself as if I was talking to a friend or even like a child sometimes. So if I'm worrying about something or I'm doubting myself, I'll go through, you know, with myself in my head, what are the things that I'm worrying about, what are the worst things that can happen, and then that normally helps me. I'm quite a practical person, so that normally helps me kind of put things in perspective. And I do have moments where I get, you know, overwhelmed, and I do get upset, and I'll go and have a hug with my husband and maybe have a little cry and tell him that I'm really worried about something, and normally just talking it through, or I'll go and have a cup of tea. I like to talk, as you might have guessed, so I often go and talk things out. In terms of staying resilient, I just try and remind myself, as I say, from a practical perspective, what are the worst things that can go wrong, and then plan to mitigate them, and then 9 times out of 10 they don't go that wrong anyway, and if they do, I've already got a plan. And then in terms of self-doubt, yeah, talk it out, have a chat, go and see a friend, have a cup of tea, cry on my husband's shoulder, have a chat with him. I tend to find that I'll keep everything in and just work through it, and then once I've kind of worked through it in my head, I'll have a chat with someone else, get a second opinion, and then I feel okay. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would you choose? This is a really boring answer. That was from Romy Kate. Here, where I am, I love where we live. I'm in the southeast of England. I'm less than an hour outside of London. We live in a really beautiful part of the world. I'd like to live in a bigger house, but I'd like to live around here. My family around here. I'm a real homebody. Yeah, here. Okay, so Noella says, you may have talked about this before, but what did you do before running a fabric shop, and how did it all begin? This is also a really big question, and I know it could take up a lot of time answering it, so I have talked about this before. I did a vlog about my first year in business. I'll link to it up here. It talks about why I set it up. But essentially, I really love fabric. I wanted to find and source beautiful dressmaking fabrics that I couldn't find elsewhere. And I also am really passionate about teaching others to sew. So our tagline is "Sewing is my superpower," and we have it on the wall in the shop and on our cards and things, and that is because I believe that sewing is a superpower in that it can make you feel empowered, it can make you feel talented, it can give you a real sense of achievement, it can give you body confidence. I think it's an amazing skill, and I really wanted to teach it to more people and bring that kind of wellness that comes with sewing and crafting to where we are, so my local area, and no one else was doing it, so I decided to. But there's a lot more detail in the other vlog. So Constance Garcia says, would you ever consider writing a book on dressmaking fabrics, the care of fabrics, and what fabrics would be best suited for what garments? Thank you. I don't know if I would consider writing a book. I think there are a lot of brilliant books out there already, and although I love writing, I'm not sure that kind of book would be the thing that I would like to write. There is a brilliant book which I love by Harriet, she's called The Little Dressmaker, and I will put it in the box down below because I can't remember the exact title, but it is basically all about how to care for your clothes, especially your handmade ones. She's a sewer herself, so she really believes in making your handmade garments last as long as possible, and she's got, I think it's called like the Little Book of Stain Removal. So as well as general care, clothing care tips, she also gives you loads and loads of ideas on how to get different stains out of different types of fabric and how to care for different types of fabric. I'll link it down below because it's a great book. Best way to trace patterns, e.g. Freya, that's from Beck's So Crazy. So tracing patterns out of books and things. So get yourself a large roll of pattern paper if you think you're going to do a lot of tracing and a lot of pattern alterations and things. You can get large 25-metre rolls from William G and a couple of other places online. They're handy because they're normally dot and cross or dotted paper, and the dots and crosses are normally at regular increments, so say an inch, so really good for getting a grey line straight and everything. Or use wide baking paper. That is often what I used to use. Is you can buy wide baking paper. You can get it from Costco, but I'm sure you can get it from other places as well. In Costco you can get it in really big rolls and use that. Oak Laurel says, worst technique in sewing that you dread. I don't know if there's one that I dread. Setting in sleeves is never my favourite thing to do. Setting in sleeves in woven fabric, that is never fun. Also, really minor, but I just hate doing it, interfacing things. I find it really boring, which I know is ridiculous because it doesn't take very long. But yeah, cutting out and then interfacing my pattern pieces I find just really dull. I loved your Journey Just tutorial. Any chance of seeing more like this? That's from Yarn Lyrical. Yes, so as I mentioned, I'm going to do a Learn to Sew series with some straightforward tutorials, but if there are specific garments then I could look at doing a more detailed tutorial like I did for the Joni. To be honest, I only did the Joni tutorial because it's a pattern that I wear all the time. I absolutely love it, and I had a slightly different method to the pattern instructions. If it's just a kind of general sew along that's the same as the pattern instructions, I would suggest, because a lot of work has to go into doing it, that maybe that job sits with the original pattern company, but I would definitely consider it. So again, leave me a note down below. Zareen Cad says, would you sell bra making kits? So we obviously have the new craft house come in and teach bra classes at the studio, and they are fantastic. No, I'm not planning on selling kits. There are a couple of really good resources already. So I think it's called Fit to Sew is where I get my kits from. They're really well priced. They've got everything you need in them, and the new craft house themselves also sell kits. So again, I'll link those down below. So Sleep Deprived says, what's your next sewing challenge that you want to attempt? So I have two. It's not so much that they're challenging, it's that they're challenging in terms of being long, in-depth projects, and I don't have a huge amount of time. So when I'm sewing, I get little bursts here and there, and I'm having to get more and more used to that, because I used to sew where I would sew most things in 1 or 2 sittings, and I'd spend the whole day or a whole weekend sewing, and I don't get that time anymore. So then the time that I do get, I do often choose to sew simpler, quicker things. So I want to sew the Sapporo coat that I mentioned in my last vlog. I'm going to do that, and I also want to make a pair of ginger jeans, because I've been saying I was going to do that for maybe 2 years and I haven't done it. And we've got the lovely Charlotte, who is the winner of the last Great British Sewing Bee. She is now teaching jean sewing at the studio, and I really want to make my own pair so that I can put them on the sample rail and show them off. So yeah, those would be my next challenges. And then there were quite a few others around fabric suggestions for particular patterns, but I think I'll cover that on another day because otherwise this video is going to be very, very long. But I hope you have found that interesting. I like sharing with you guys. I love having a chat, as I've said, and I get a lot of questions emailed and on Instagram, things like that, so I'm going to try and make this a regular feature, maybe every sort of 6 to 8 weeks or so, gather up the questions and then I can answer them on here. So if there's anything that you do want to know, pop it down below. And I hope you all have a really, really wonderful week, whatever you're doing. We've just finished half term here, so it's been crazy in the studio. I had intended to do a fabric favourites vlog this week, but because we've had all the kids' classes and we've just finished up our last term of dressmaking classes this week as well, there just hasn't been time for me to do it in the shop because there's always people there, which is why I needed this space. So I will do that next week. We're having a team meeting on Wednesday, which I'm really looking forward to, and a kind of team get together. I'm going to chat about loads of things, and in the afternoon I'm going to put some time in so that I can do an updated Fabrics Favourite vlog because we've got loads of gorgeous new bits in that I want to show you. So I hope you have a really, really good week. If you've liked the video, give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button down below, and if you'd like to keep updated with any more of our news and goings on and things, then make sure you sign up to our newsletter, which is down there, and that includes everything from new fabrics, new classes, trends, blog posts, and I've just started doing a behind the seams letter every month, which is just giving you a bit more of an insight into the things that I'm working on for the business, and it is exclusively for newsletter subscribers, and there's a cheeky little discount when you subscribe as well, so I'll link that down there too. Have a good week, guys. I'll catch up with you soon. Bye.